The smell of bacon grease and butter filled every American kitchen in the 1960s, creating memories that would last a lifetime. Back then, families gathered around the dinner table every single night, sharing meals that today's generation has almost completely forgotten. These are the 25 forgotten dinners that every family in the 1960s ate weekly. Simple, hearty meals that fed families of 6 on just a few dollars. Tuna noodle casserole. The queen of all casseroles ruled dinner tables across America. Mothers mixed canned tuna with egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, and frozen peas before topping it with crushed potato chips. The dish baked until golden brown, creating a crispy top layer that kids fought over. Every family had their own secret ingredient. Some added diced celery for crunch, others threw in a can of corn. The casserole stretched one can of tuna to feed an entire family, making it a budget-friendly favorite. Leftovers tasted even better the next day, and smart mothers always made extra. The combination of creamy soup, tender noodles, and salty chips created comfort food magic that modern families rarely experience. Beef stroganoff. Thin strips of beef simmered in a rich, creamy sauce that made ordinary weeknight dinners feel special. The secret was browning the meat first, then adding sliced mushrooms and onions until they caramelized. Sour cream transformed the simple pan drippings into a luxurious sauce that coated every strand of egg noodles. Families gathered around steaming plates, the aroma filling the entire house. Children learned to appreciate the tangy flavor of sour cream, mixed with savory beef juices. The dish originated from Russian cuisine, but became thoroughly American by the 1960s. Mothers served it with a side of green beans or carrots, creating a complete meal that satisfied everyone. The leftovers never lasted long, often disappearing as midnight snacks for hungry teenagers. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Nothing said home like a thick slice of meatloaf sitting next to a mountain of fluffy mashed potatoes. Mothers mixed ground beef with breadcrumbs, eggs, and their own special blend of seasonings before shaping it into a loaf. The top got brushed with ketchup or a brown sugar glaze that caramelized during baking. Meanwhile, potatoes boiled on the stovetop, ready to be mashed with butter and milk until they reached the perfect consistency. The combination created the ultimate comfort food experience. Children made wells in their mashed potatoes to hold gravy, turning dinner into an interactive experience. Cold meatloaf sandwiches the next day were almost as good as the original meal. This dish represented everything wholesome about American family dining. Fried chicken and biscuits. The sizzle of chicken hitting hot oil announced that something special was happening in the kitchen. Mothers dredged chicken pieces in seasoned flour before frying them to golden perfection in a cast iron skillet. The process took time and patience, but the results were worth every minute. Homemade biscuits baked alongside the chicken, rising tall and flaky in the oven. Families gathered around platters piled high with crispy chicken and warm biscuits, passing bowls of gravy and honey. The combination of crunchy coating and tender meat created a texture contrast that delighted everyone. Children learned to appreciate the art of proper frying, watching their mothers tend the skillet with practiced expertise. Sunday dinners often featured this beloved combination, bringing extended family together for hours of eating and conversation. Pork chops with applesauce. Thick pork chops seared in a heavy skillet created the foundation for countless family dinners. The meat developed a beautiful brown crust while staying juicy inside, filling the kitchen with savory aromas. Homemade applesauce provided the perfect sweet counterpoint to the rich pork flavor. Some families preferred chunky applesauce with visible apple pieces, while others liked it smooth and creamy. The combination taught children to appreciate how sweet and savory flavors could work together beautifully. Mothers often added cinnamon to their applesauce, creating a warming spice that complemented the pork perfectly. Green beans or corn typically completed the plate, adding color and nutrition. The simplicity of the dish made it a weeknight favorite, requiring minimal preparation but delivering maximum satisfaction to hungry families. Salmon croquettes. Canned salmon transformed into elegant dinner fare when mothers shaped it into golden patties. The fish, mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings before being pan-fried until crispy on both sides. These budget-friendly patties stretched expensive protein to feed large families without breaking the bank. Children initially suspicious of the pink patties quickly learned to love their crispy exterior and flaky interior. Tartar sauce or lemon wedges provided the perfect accompaniments, adding brightness to the rich salmon flavor. The dish represented ingenuity in the kitchen, turning humble ingredients into something special. Mothers often served them with creamy coleslaw and boiled potatoes, creating a complete meal that satisfied everyone. The technique passed down through generations, with daughters learning to make perfect croquettes by watching their mothers work. Beef and noodles. Wide egg noodles swimming in rich beef broth created the ultimate comfort food for cold nights. Tender chunks of beef, slow cooked until they fell apart at the touch of a fork, made this dish special. The cooking process filled the house with incredible aromas that built anticipation for dinner. Families gathered around bowls of this hearty dish, steam rising from each serving. The combination of tender beef, chewy noodles, and flavorful broth provided everything a growing family needed. Mothers often added carrots and celery to boost nutrition and add color to the dish. The meal represented the epitome of stick-to-your-ribs cooking that kept families satisfied for hours. Leftovers, if there were any, made incredible lunches the next day, warming hearts and bellies. Hamburger Helper. The arrival of boxed dinner mixes revolutionized busy family kitchens across America. Ground beef mixed with pasta and a packet of seasoning created countless variations of this modern convenience food. Mothers appreciated the simplicity. Brown the meat, add the contents of the box, and dinner was ready in 30 minutes. Children loved the creamy, cheesy flavors that made ordinary ground beef taste exciting. The dish represented the changing times, when convenience began competing with tradition in American kitchens. Different varieties meant families could enjoy something different every night, while still using the same basic ingredients. The one-pot preparation made cleanup easier for busy mothers juggling multiple responsibilities. This modern marvel proved that good food didn't always require hours of preparation time. Chicken and dumplings. Fluffy dumplings floating in rich chicken broth created pure comfort in a bowl. Mothers simmered whole chickens until the meat fell off the bone, creating the base for this beloved dish. The dumplings, made from simple biscuit dough, cooked directly in the bubbling broth until they doubled in size. Each spoonful contained tender chicken, pillowy dumplings, and vegetables that had absorbed all the wonderful flavors. The dish required patience and skill, with mothers timing everything perfectly to achieve the ideal consistency. Children watched in amazement as the small balls of dough transformed into substantial dumplings. The meal provided everything a family needed in one pot: protein, vegetables, and filling carbohydrates. Cold winter nights called for this warming dish that satisfied both body and soul. Liver and onions. This nutritious but polarizing dish appeared on dinner tables whether children liked it or not. Mothers knew liver provided essential iron and vitamins, making it a required part of family nutrition. The key was proper preparation, soaking the liver in milk, then dredging it in flour before frying quickly in hot oil. Caramelized onions added sweetness that balanced the mineral flavor of the organ meat. Some children learned to love it, while others developed creative ways to hide it on their plates. Bacon often accompanied the dish, providing familiar flavors that made the liver more acceptable. The meal represented a time when nutrition took precedence over preferences, and children ate what was served. Smart mothers served it with mashed potatoes and gravy, creating comfort food combinations that softened the liver's strong taste. Pot roast with vegetables. Sunday dinners centered around a perfectly cooked pot roast, surrounded by tender vegetables. The large cut of beef cooked slowly in a covered pot, becoming fork tender after hours in the oven. Potatoes, carrots, and onions cooked alongside the meat, absorbing all the rich flavors and creating a complete meal in one dish. The aroma that filled the house during cooking created anticipation that lasted all afternoon. Families gathered around the dinner table as fathers carved thick slices of the succulent roast. The natural gravy that formed during cooking provided the perfect sauce for everything on the plate. This dish represented the pinnacle of home cooking, requiring time and attention but rewarding families with unforgettable meals. Leftovers made incredible sandwiches and hash throughout the following week. Spaghetti and meatballs. Italian-American cuisine found its way into mainstream family dining through this beloved combination. Mothers rolled ground beef, breadcrumbs, and eggs into perfect spheres before browning them in hot oil. The meatballs then simmered in tomato sauce, absorbing flavors while keeping their shape. Long strands of spaghetti provided the perfect vehicle for the rich sauce and tender meatballs. Children learned to twirl pasta on their forks, creating entertaining dinner table scenes. The dish represented the melting pot of American cuisine, adopting international flavors and making them thoroughly American. Garlic bread often accompanied the meal, providing a vehicle for sopping up every drop of sauce. Family dinners became interactive experiences as everyone worked to eat their spaghetti without making a mess. Fish sticks and tartar sauce. Frozen fish sticks revolutionized busy weeknight dinners, providing protein that children actually enjoyed eating. The breaded rectangles baked in the oven until golden brown and crispy on the outside. Tartar sauce, either homemade or store-bought, provided the perfect creamy accompaniment to the mild fish flavor. Children appreciated the familiar shape and texture that made seafood less intimidating. Mothers loved the convenience of a protein that cooked quickly and required minimal preparation. French fries or baked beans typically completed the plate, creating a meal that satisfied young palates. The dish represented the growing influence of convenience foods in American kitchens. Quality varied between brands, with families developing strong preferences for their favorite varieties that delivered the best taste and texture. Chili con carne. Hearty bowls of chili provided warmth and satisfaction during cold months. Ground beef, beans, tomatoes, and spices simmered together for hours, creating complex flavors that improved with time. Each family had their own secret recipe, passed down through generations and fiercely defended. Some preferred it thick enough to eat with a fork, while others liked it soupy enough to drink. Cornbread or crackers provided the perfect accompaniment, adding texture and helping to soak up the flavorful liquid. The dish represented regional variations in American cooking, with different areas claiming their version as the most authentic. Leftovers often tasted better than the original meal, as the flavors had more time to meld together. Chili cook-offs became community events where neighbors competed to create the most delicious version. Stuffed bell peppers. Colorful bell peppers became edible bowls for a mixture of ground beef, rice, and vegetables. Mothers carefully hollowed out the peppers, saving the tops to use as lids during baking. The filling combined cooked rice with seasoned ground beef, creating a complete meal inside each pepper. The peppers softened during baking while maintaining their shape, creating individual portions that looked as good as they tasted. Children appreciated having their own personal dinner package, making the meal feel special and interactive. The dish represented creative cooking that made ordinary ingredients feel elegant and sophisticated. Different colored peppers added visual appeal to the dinner table, creating a rainbow of delicious options. The combination of tender pepper, seasoned filling, and melted cheese on top created a perfect balance of flavors and textures. Chicken tetrazzini. This sophisticated casserole elevated leftover chicken into an elegant dinner worthy of company. Diced chicken, mixed with spaghetti, mushrooms, and a rich cream sauce before being topped with cheese and breadcrumbs. The dish baked until bubbly and golden, creating a crispy top layer that contrasted beautifully with the creamy interior. Named after an opera singer, the dish brought European elegance to American dinner tables. Families gathered around this impressive casserole that looked as good as it tasted. The combination of pasta, protein, and vegetables created a complete meal that satisfied everyone. Mothers often made it when they wanted to impress guests or create something special for their families. The leftovers, when there were any, made incredible lunches that reheated beautifully. Pineapple upside-down ham. Sweet pineapple rings and maraschino cherries transformed ordinary ham into a show-stopping centerpiece. The fruit caramelized during cooking, creating a glossy glaze that made the ham look like it belonged in a magazine. Brown sugar and butter created the perfect base for the pineapple, adding sweetness that balanced the salty ham. Families gathered around this impressive dish that looked too beautiful to eat. The combination of sweet and savory flavors taught children to appreciate complex taste combinations. The presentation made every dinner feel like a special occasion, even when it was just a regular weeknight meal. Carving the ham revealed the beautiful fruit pattern that decorated each slice. This dish represented the era's love affair, with creative presentations that made ordinary ingredients look extraordinary. Beef stew. Chunks of beef, potatoes, and vegetables simmered together in rich broth created the ultimate cold weather comfort food. The long cooking process transformed tough cuts of meat into tender morsels that melted in your mouth. Carrots, celery, and onions added sweetness and nutrition to the hearty mixture. The stew thickened naturally as it cooked, creating a rich gravy that coated every ingredient. Families gathered around bowls of this warming dish that provided everything needed for a complete meal. The aroma that filled the house during cooking created anticipation that built throughout the day. Crusty bread or biscuits provided the perfect accompaniment for soaking up every drop of the flavorful broth. The dish represented the art of slow cooking that created incredible flavors through patience and time. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Affectionately known as SOS by military families, this dish combined dried beef in a rich white sauce served over toast. The cream sauce, made from butter, flour, and milk, created a luxurious base for the salty beef. The dish provided a hearty breakfast for dinner option that satisfied hungry families on a budget. Toast points provided the perfect foundation for the creamy mixture, absorbing the sauce while maintaining some texture. Children learned to appreciate the contrast between the crispy toast and smooth sauce. The dish represented wartime cooking that made inexpensive ingredients taste rich and satisfying. Different families added their own touches. Some included hard-boiled eggs, while others added cheese for extra richness. The simplicity of the dish made it a go-to option for busy nights when time was limited. Shepherd's pie. Layers of seasoned ground beef and vegetables topped with fluffy mashed potatoes created this British-inspired comfort food. The meat mixture cooked with onions, carrots, and peas, creating a savory base full of flavor and nutrition. Mashed potatoes spread over the top formed a golden crust during baking, sealing in all the delicious flavors below. The dish provided a complete meal in one pan, making it perfect for busy family dinners. Children loved digging through the potato layer to discover the treasures hidden underneath. The combination of textures, creamy potatoes, tender vegetables, and seasoned meat created a satisfying eating experience. Leftovers reheated beautifully, often tasting even better the next day. This dish represented the melting pot of American cuisine, adopting international classics and making them part of everyday family dining. Cornbread and beans. This simple combination provided filling nutrition that stretched family budgets without sacrificing flavor. Dried beans, soaked overnight and cooked slowly with ham hocks or bacon, created a rich, smoky base. The long cooking process transformed humble ingredients into something deeply satisfying and flavorful. Fresh cornbread, still warm from the oven, provided the perfect accompaniment to soak up the bean liquid. The combination of beans and cornbread created a complete protein, showing the wisdom of traditional cooking combinations. Families gathered around this unpretentious meal that proved simple ingredients could create extraordinary satisfaction. The dish represented regional American cooking at its finest, with different areas adding their own special touches. Hot sauce or chopped onions provided optional condiments that let each family member customize their portion. Chicken pot pie. Flaky pastry encased tender chicken and vegetables in a rich, creamy sauce that defined comfort food perfection. The filling combined diced chicken with carrots, peas, and celery in a sauce made from chicken broth and cream. The top crust, golden brown and perfectly flaky, created anticipation as it was broken to reveal the treasures inside. Steam escaped as the pie was cut, filling the air with incredible aromas that made mouths water. Each bite contained the perfect balance of tender meat, crisp vegetables, and rich sauce. The dish represented the pinnacle of home cooking, requiring skill and time, but rewarding families with unforgettable meals. Individual pot pies made everyone feel special, creating personal portions that looked as good as they tasted. This classic American dish brought families together around the dinner table for shared experiences. Ham and scalloped potatoes. Thin slices of potato layered with ham and cheese created an elegant casserole that impressed everyone at the table. The potatoes, sliced paper thin, cooked in cream until tender and golden brown on top. Ham added protein and smoky flavor that complemented the mild potatoes perfectly. The dish baked slowly, allowing the flavors to meld together and the top to develop a beautiful golden crust. Families gathered around this impressive casserole that looked like it belonged in a fancy restaurant. The combination of creamy potatoes, salty ham, and melted cheese created comfort food at its finest. The dish represented special occasion cooking that made ordinary weeknight dinners feel celebratory. Leftovers, when there were any, made incredible lunches that reheated beautifully and maintained their creamy texture. Tuna salad sandwiches. Canned tuna mixed with mayonnaise, celery, and pickles created the foundation for countless family lunches and light dinners. The mixture, seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes a touch of lemon juice, provided protein-packed nutrition in an affordable package. Soft white bread held the filling together, creating sandwiches that satisfied without being too heavy. Children learned to appreciate the combination of textures: creamy tuna, crunchy celery, and tangy pickles. The dish represented the growing influence of convenience foods that made meal preparation faster and easier. Different families added their own special touches. Some included hard-boiled eggs, while others preferred chopped onions for extra flavor. Potato chips on the side completed the meal, adding crunch and salt that complemented the mild tuna perfectly. Tomato soup and grilled cheese. The classic combination of creamy tomato soup and golden grilled cheese sandwiches created the ultimate comfort food pairing. The soup, often made from condensed cans mixed with milk, provided warmth and familiar flavors that children loved. Grilled cheese sandwiches, buttered on the outside and filled with melted cheese, created the perfect vehicle for dunking in the soup. The contrast between the hot, crispy sandwich and smooth, creamy soup created a textural experience that delighted everyone. Families gathered around this simple meal that proved the best combinations were often the simplest ones. The dish represented the growing influence of processed foods that made cooking faster and more convenient. Different cheeses created variations in flavor, with families developing strong preferences for their favorite combinations that created the perfect, melted consistency. Chicken a la king. Wednesday evenings brought the queen of comfort foods to middle-class tables across America. Chunks of tender chicken swimming in a creamy white sauce with peas, carrots, and mushrooms created a dish that felt both elegant and homey. The secret lived in the roux. Butter and flour cooked together until golden, then slowly whisked with milk until smooth as silk. Mothers served this royal treat over toast points, biscuits, or rice, creating a meal that stretched the family budget without sacrificing taste. Children loved fishing out the bright green peas and orange carrots, while adults appreciated the subtle herbs that made each bite special. The best part came from the leftovers, which somehow tasted even better the next day. Families would gather around the table, sharing stories of their day, while enjoying this creamy, satisfying meal that made everyone feel like royalty. Chicken Kiev. Thursday nights transformed ordinary chicken breasts into golden, crispy treasures, hiding pools of herbed butter inside. The preparation became a family affair. Mom pounding the chicken flat, while Dad mixed fresh parsley, chives, and garlic into softened butter. Children watched wide-eyed as the butter mixture got rolled into logs and chilled until firm. The magic happened when the stuffed chicken got coated in breadcrumbs and fried until golden brown. Cutting into it released a fountain of aromatic herb butter that made everyone's mouth water. The contrast between the crispy exterior and the tender, buttery interior created a dining experience that felt restaurant quality. Families served it with roasted potatoes and green beans, creating a complete meal that made Thursday nights special. The dish required patience and skill, but the results were worth every minute of preparation. Steak Diane. Friday nights called for something special, and Steak Diane delivered drama right at the dinner table. The ritual began with thin beef steaks, getting a quick sear in a hot skillet, followed by a sauce that included cognac, cream, and mushrooms. The real showstopper came when Dad would flambe the pan, creating dancing blue flames that made children gasp with delight. The sauce, rich with beef stock and finished with butter, coated each piece of tender steak perfectly. Families gathered around the table while the performance unfolded, making dinner feel like entertainment. The combination of perfectly cooked meat and that silky, flavorful sauce created a meal worthy of celebration. Served with roasted vegetables and potatoes, Steak Diane turned Friday nights into special occasions. The dish represented sophistication and culinary adventure, bringing restaurant-quality dining to the family table every week. Swedish meatballs. Saturday afternoons meant rolling dozens of small, perfect meatballs while Swedish folk music played on the radio. Mothers combined ground beef and pork with breadcrumbs soaked in milk, creating a mixture so tender it practically melted in your mouth. The secret ingredient, a touch of nutmeg, gave these meatballs their distinctive, warming flavor. Children helped shape the meatballs, their small hands creating perfectly round spheres that would soon simmer in a rich, creamy gravy. The sauce, made with beef stock and sour cream, complemented the meat perfectly, while adding a tangy richness that made everyone want seconds. Served over egg noodles or mashed potatoes, Swedish meatballs created a meal that satisfied both hunger and nostalgia. The dish brought families together around the kitchen table, sharing stories and laughter while enjoying food that felt like a warm hug from Grandma. Salisbury steak. Sunday dinners featured this dressed-up version of hamburger that made children feel grown-up and sophisticated. Ground beef, mixed with onions, breadcrumbs, and eggs, got shaped into oval patties, then pan-fried until golden brown. The real magic happened in the gravy, a rich, brown sauce made with beef stock, onions, and mushrooms that transformed simple ground beef into something special. Families gathered around the table as Mom spooned the savory gravy over each portion, creating a meal that felt both familiar and elevated. The combination of seasoned beef and rich gravy satisfied even the pickiest eaters, while the accompanying mashed potatoes and green vegetables rounded out the meal perfectly. This dish proved that simple ingredients, when prepared with care and love, could create memorable family dinners that brought everyone together around the table week after week. Liver and onions. Every mother knew that liver packed more nutrition per pound than almost any other meat, making it a weekly staple when budgets were tight and growing children needed iron. The trick was soaking the liver in milk for an hour before cooking, which removed the strong metallic taste that made kids wrinkle their noses. Smart mothers would coat thin slices in seasoned flour and fry them quickly with sweet caramelized onions, creating a meal that even the pickiest eaters would finish. The whole house would smell like a real home-cooked dinner, not the processed foods that would later take over American kitchens. Fathers would praise their wives for serving such a nutritious meal, while children learn to appreciate foods that were good for them, even if they didn't always taste like candy. This dish taught entire generations that eating well sometimes meant eating things that challenge your taste buds, but rewarded your health. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Military families brought this hearty breakfast for dinner tradition home from the war, turning dried beef and white sauce into a satisfying meal that stuck to your ribs. The secret was making a proper roux with butter and flour, then slowly whisking in milk until it became thick and creamy before adding the salty, shredded beef. Ladled over thick slices of buttered toast, it provided the kind of substantial comfort food that kept families full and happy without breaking the household budget. Kids might have called it strange names, but they always cleaned their plates when mother served this filling favorite. Veterans would smile knowingly when this appeared on the dinner table, remembering how this same dish had sustained them through difficult times overseas. The combination of salty beef and creamy sauce created a perfect balance that satisfied both adults who remembered harder times and children who just knew it tasted good. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes. Ground beef mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and secret seasonings, then shaped into a loaf and baked until golden, represented the heart of American family cooking in its most honest form. Every mother had her own variation. Some added diced onions, others used different combinations of ground meats, and the truly creative ones tucked hard-boiled eggs in the center for surprise. The real magic happened when the meatloaf was sliced and served alongside fluffy mashed potatoes and gravy made from the pan drippings. This was comfort food that didn't apologize for being simple, just focused on being satisfying and delicious. Cold meatloaf sandwiches the next day were often better than the original hot dinner, sliced thick and served between pieces of white bread with mayonnaise. Children would watch their mothers mix the ingredients by hand, learning cooking techniques that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Chicken and dumplings. When a whole chicken needed to feed a large family, smart mothers knew that turning it into chicken and dumplings would stretch one bird into a meal that satisfied everyone around the table. The chicken was first simmered with onions, carrots, and celery until it fell off the bone, creating a rich broth that became the foundation for fluffy, pillowy dumplings. The secret was not lifting the lid while the dumplings cooked, allowing them to steam properly and become light as air. This was the kind of meal that took time and patience, but rewarded families with something that tasted like pure comfort and care. Grandmothers passed down their dumpling recipes through generations, each family convinced their version was the absolute best in the neighborhood. The steam that escaped when the pot was finally opened filled the kitchen with an aroma that meant love, tradition, and the kind of cooking that couldn't be rushed or faked. Chicken fried steak. Cube steak pounded thin, coated in seasoned flour, and fried until golden, then smothered in creamy white gravy, brought Southern comfort food to dinner tables across America. The key was creating a crispy coating that stayed attached to the meat, achieved through proper breading technique and careful temperature control. The gravy was made from the pan drippings, creating a rich, peppery sauce that complemented the crispy steak perfectly. Served with mashed potatoes and green beans, this was the kind of meal that made ordinary weeknight dinners feel like special occasions. The pounding of the meat became a therapeutic activity for busy mothers, working out the day's frustrations while preparing dinner for their families. This dish proved that tough, inexpensive cuts of meat could be transformed into something tender and delicious with the right technique and a little extra effort. Beef stew. Chunks of beef slowly simmered with potatoes, carrots, and onions in rich broth created a one-pot meal that filled the house with wonderful aromas and satisfied the heartiest appetites. The secret was browning the meat first to develop deep, rich flavors, then adding vegetables in stages so everything cooked perfectly. A little bit of flour helped thicken the broth into a rich gravy that coated all the ingredients beautifully. This was the kind of meal that proved patience was the most important ingredient, turning tough meat and simple vegetables into something truly spectacular. Cold winter days called for this warming stew that could simmer on the stove all afternoon, filling the house with anticipation. Mothers would start the stew early in the morning, knowing that the long, slow cooking process would reward their families with tender meat and perfectly cooked vegetables by dinner time.